Leadership is about taking courageous, big, important, once-in-a-generation decisions. And this is what this is. This is a generational moment to, hopefully, for this tyrannical regime to be...
What happens when a politician calls for regime change abroad, but gets asked about the consequences at home? Because that's exactly the moment you're about to watch. A debate that starts with bold foreign policy rhetoric quickly turns into something far more uncomfortable. Richard Tice is arguing that Britain should fully support Donald Trump's push for regime change in Iran, framing it as a historic opportunity to remove a hostile government and reshape the region. On the surface, it sounds like strong leadership language. Big decisions, big global stakes, the kind of dramatic geopolitical talk politicians love to deliver. But then Lewis Goodall does something simple and devastatingly effective. He asks the question almost nobody on that side of the political spectrum wants to answer. If you support destabilizing a regime, if you support encouraging people inside that country to rise up, and if that situation spirals into chaos, what happens to the people forced to flee? Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Because what follows isn't just a disagreement about Iran. It's a moment where two completely different political narratives collide. On one side, the call for bold intervention overseas. On the other, the reality that conflicts like these rarely stay contained, and often create waves of human consequences far beyond their borders. And as you're about to see, once that question is asked directly, the conversation takes a very interesting turn.
Leadership is about taking courageous, big, important, once-in-a-generation decisions. And this is what this is. This is a generational moment to, hopefully, for this tyrannical regime to be removed and for more peace and stability to permeate across the whole of the Middle East and beyond.
So therefore, given that, as you say, it's a once-in-a-generation opportunity, the president is calling for, the people there, it will be very risky for them. Clearly, they will be risking life and limb to take up arms or who knows what against their own government, which is armed to the teeth and has been embedded in that country for half a century. Given that, therefore, if they attempt that and it goes wrong and people have to flee, would we welcome those refugees to our shores? Would you think we should?
I think from everything I'm hearing, actually, the likelihood is that Iranian dissidents will want to go back to Iran to help Iran.
But sure, but if the revolution goes wrong...
All of that, in a sense, is to look at over the coming months. What we must hope and give support is for the Persian people, the Iranian peace-loving people, hard-working people, to give them the maximum opportunity to get their country back.
But I mean, Iran, I just only mentioned it because we already have a reasonable flow of refugees from Iran. Iran, in fact, was the third most common nationality of refugees on small boats in 2025.
But the issue is whether or not...
Where was your support for those Iranians in small boats?
Because our deep concern is that actually some of those have links to the regime looking to spread anti-Semitism and Islamist ideology. Yes, within Iran, there are those who are part of the regime who are very bad people, and there are those who are good people, and we should be supporting the good people. And you've just got to have the courage to tell it as it is.
And should we support them if, as I say, if this revolution which you're backing goes wrong, you would welcome them if they appear on small boats?
Let's back it to go right. That is what we've got to be totally focused on.
As you say, there are bumps in the road. So
there will be bumps in the road, and you keep supporting good people. That's what you do.
Well, Nigel Farage, of course, he's changed his tune on Iran, hasn't he, over the course of the last decade, quite substantially. He used to say almost every other country where the West has intervened or implied support for regime change, such as Libya, Syria and Iraq, the situation has been made worse, got better. In 2013, he said, a more intelligent approach would have been to love bomb Iran. What's changed?
Well, essentially, the issue with Iran is we've seen this regime get worse and worse and worse. You've seen the actions of...
Pretty bad in 2013.
And it's got far, far worse. I mean, killing tens of thousands of people. And in a sense, look, people who say we should need to get round a table, all very lovey-dovey and nicey-nicey, but actually that has been tried.
We should love bomb them. But well, his words.
In a sense, actually, that's what the president of the US is doing by love bombing the good Persian people and trying to get rid of the regime. But look, people have tried for a decade or so, negotiations, patently gone nowhere. The Iranian regime have taken us as naive fools whilst they've been building up their nuclear capability, their long-range ballistic missile capability, and eventually you have to say, enough is enough.
He said, I do not support acts of aggression, even from countries that feel their existence is threatened, i.e. Israel. I'd go for non-intervention. I mean, isn't the truth that basically Obama was president then and Farage didn't like him, but Trump's president now, Farage likes him, so he just backs him accordingly?
No, the truth is you have to deal with the situations as they confront you, and the Iranian regime has got worse and worse, and eventually you have to say, this is a permanent, clear and present threat to ourselves and our Western allies, including Israel.
And that right there is where the entire argument starts to fall apart. What Louis Goodall did wasn't dramatic or aggressive. He simply followed the logic to its conclusion, and that's what exposed the contradiction. Reform UK has built much of its political identity around stopping small boats and reducing migration. Yet here is Richard Tice supporting a foreign policy position that historically leads to more displacement. Because when regimes collapse and regions become unstable, people flee. We've seen it after Iraq, Libya, and Syria. Major conflicts don't stay contained. They create refugees. So when Goodall asked the obvious question, if you support destabilizing Iran, would you accept the people forced to flee if things go wrong? The answer suddenly became far less clear. And that's the tension he exposed. You can't support the kind of intervention that creates instability abroad while acting shocked when displaced people seek safety elsewhere. Foreign policy decisions don't just exist in speeches or headlines, they come with real human consequences. And that's the uncomfortable reality this exchange forced into the spotlight. Let me know what you think about this moment in the comments.